Rain streaked the wide glass windows of the Midtown office tower that morning, distorting the reflection of Emily's weary face as she hurried inside. Her coat was a thrift shop find, navy but fraying at the cuffs, one button missing, the hem stiff from old stains. She clutched a duct-taped backpack against her chest, the way some women carried designer handbags. Inside, nestled between crumpled bus transfer tickets and a half-eaten granola bar, were her son's asthma inhaler and a plastic folder of overdue bills. Her shoes squeaked with each step, cheap sneakers with the fabric worn thin at the toes. Gray laces fraying like tired nerves. She had exactly $8.16 in her bank account. And she knew because she had checked twice before buying the weak coffee in her hand. It had been a long week of babysitting shifts and a longer month since the eviction notice had started curling at the edges of her apartment door. Her 8-year-old Luke had been coughing all night again, the sound like sandpaper scraping in a narrow tube. The office lobby smelled of polished wood and espresso. The contrast made her head swim. Everything here was sleek, warm, bright. A man in a charcoal suit strode past, leather shoes shining, Bluetooth in his ear, the kind of person who probably never counted coins at the self-checkout. Emily just needed to drop off the application. The receptionist barely looked up when she asked where HR was, tapping one manicured finger toward the second floor, and that's when she saw him. A man crouched near the corner by the copier, wearing faded jeans and a navy work shirt, sleeves rolled up over tanned forearms. A streak of grease marked one temple. He was fixing the machine, tools spread out on a rag beside him. Not the usual janitor. She hadn't seen him here before. Their eyes met briefly. His were a warm hazel, curious but unreadable. He gave a small nod, as if he knew something she didn't, then returned to loosening a bolt with slow precision. She assumed he was just another invisible worker like her. Someone people walked past without a second thought, but she was wrong. 2 hours later, after handing in her application, she returned to the lobby and found the copier man still there, sitting now on the bench near the window with a to-go cup. The rain had eased into drizzle, leaving the streets glistening. Emily hesitated, clutching her backpack straps. "You work here?" she asked finally, nodding toward the tools. "Something like that," he said with a half-smile. His voice was calm, low, carrying the trace of someone used to being listened to. "You looking for a job?" She laughed softly, a tired sound. "Looking, applying, hoping. Doesn't pay to be picky these days." He studied her for a moment, eyes flicking to the worn sneakers, the damp hair escaping her bun, the knuckles chapped red from cold. "What do you do?" "Anything," she said honestly. "Childcare, cleaning, reception. Whatever keeps the lights on. Not that they always stay on." Something shifted in his expression then, almost imperceptibly, like he wanted to ask but stopped himself. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a card, scribbling something on the back. "Take this," he said, handing it to her. "They're hiring across town. Tell them Daniel sent you." She glanced at the neat handwriting, unsure why her chest felt tight. Just kindness, she told herself. That's all. When she looked up again, he was gone. 3 days passed. The rain turned to a biting wind that rattled the loose window frame in her apartment. The fridge held only half a loaf of bread and a nearly empty jar of peanut butter. Luke's shoes had new holes near the toes. She'd stuffed tissue inside to keep his socks dry. The number on the card led her to a bustling cafe on West 14th, where the manager, after one glance at the name Daniel, offered her a trial shift. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid better than babysitting. And tips were good on weekends. That night, while wiping down tables, Emily heard someone call her name. She turned and froze. Daniel. Same rolled-up sleeves, same calm presence. But this time, he wasn't carrying tools. He was shaking hands with the cafe owner, people straightening when he entered like gravity itself had changed. Someone whispered, CEO. and Emily felt heat rush to her face. Co. The man who had fixed the copier? Her cloth stilled mid-wipe as Daniel crossed the room toward her. Expression unreadable but eyes steady on hers. "Emily," he said softly, stopping just close enough that she could smell his cologne, warm, woodsy, expensive. "We need to talk." The wind howled outside. She stood frozen, the rag twisting in her trembling hands, while he waited with the patience of someone used to giving orders, but not in a hurry to prove it. Emily's throat tightened. She didn't know whether to thank him for the cafe job or ask why a millionaire CEO had been crouched on the floor, fixing a copier like some part-time handyman. Daniel seemed to read her confusion. "Breaks over in 15? He asked gently. She nodded because words felt like too much. They ended up at a corner booth, the cafe nearly empty now except for 2 college kids sharing a laptop. Daniel sat opposite her, forearms resting on the table, watching her with an intensity that made her heart skitter. He wore no suit tonight, just dark jeans and a black jacket, but there was no mistaking it now, the quiet confidence, the easy authority. "I grew up poor," he said finally, voice low. "Single mom. Nights we ate cereal for dinner if we were lucky. People treated her like she was invisible, like she didn't matter. I hated that." Emily looked down at her chipped nails. "I get it. So sometimes," he continued, "I walk into my own buildings like I don't belong there. Reminds me what it feels like. Keeps me real." The words landed heavy. He wasn't bragging. He wasn't performing. She hesitated. "I thought you were just the janitor." He smiled faintly, not offended. "Most people do." Then, leaning back, he studied her like he was solving a puzzle. "Emily, what do you actually want?" Not the polite answer. The real one. Her laugh came out rough. "To keep my kid fed. To pay rent without counting quarters from under the couch cushions. That's it." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled something from his jacket pocket, an envelope. He slid it across the table. She blinked. "What's this?" 3 months' rent, he said simply. "No strings, call it. Payback for all the people who helped my mom when she needed it." Her fingers froze on the paper. Heat rose behind her eyes, embarrassing and unstoppable. "I can't take this," she whispered. "Yes, you can," he said softly, holding her gaze. "Because someday you'll help someone else, and it'll keep going." Outside, the wind pushed hard against the windows. The next week's blurred rent paid. Groceries stocked, Luke's cough easing now that the heat stayed on at night. Emily worked at the cafe full-time, the manager hinting about promotions, customers tipping her because she smiled again, without forcing it. But Daniel didn't disappear like she half expected. He stopped by sometimes, never flashy, always calm. Luke grew attached to him in that easy way kids sense safety. They played chess on the battered cafe set while Emily wiped tables, Daniel letting the boy win more than he realized. One snowy evening near Christmas, the cafe glowed warm against the dark streets. Emily was stacking chairs when Daniel appeared again, brushing flakes from his shoulders. He looked different tonight, tired maybe, like even millionaires carried weights people couldn't see. "I've been thinking," he said, leaning on the counter. "My company has a community outreach program. We fund training, childcare, job placements. It's not charity, it's investment in people who just need a break. Like you." She stilled, rag in hand. "Are you offering me?" "A chance," he finished. "Nothing more, nothing less. Office coordinator position. Benefits, real hours. You'd be great at it." Her lips parted, but no words came. Because she remembered the fridge light flickering over empty shelves, the eviction notice curling at the edges, Luke's shoes stuffed with tissue paper. And now this man, this stranger who had fixed a copier like he belonged at the bottom, instead of the top, was rewriting everything. She swallowed hard. "Why me?" Daniel's smile was small but steady. Because I was you. And someone once chose to believe in me. It was too much and not enough all at once. She nodded slowly, gripping the counter until her knuckles ached. That Christmas, Emily and Luke decorated a tiny thrift store tree in their apartment. Heat humming through the vents, fridge full for the first time in months. Outside, snow kept falling, soft and relentless. She thought of Daniel, of the envelope on the cafe table, of his words about kindness moving forward like a chain you never saw the end of. One act of generosity can reroute a life. She realized, and it had, because sometimes the man fixing the copier isn't just the janitor. Sometimes he's the reason you start believing in miracles again. Quiet, human-sized miracles that arrive disguised as strangers with warm eyes and rolled-up sleeves.